guys, it's Carrie with Rockin' G Farm. Tonight I am going to share with y'all one of my family's favorite meals that I make from scratch, and that is my chicken and noodle soup. So what we do with our chicken and noodle soup, I use some wide egg noodles, and then I use garlic salt, creamy chicken soup, crushed red peppers, salt and pepper to taste, and chicken broth, and celery, and if I have carrots, I will use carrots, and then of course I've diced some chicken. And this is probably about 1.5 pounds because it's just me and my husband, so I don't make a big batch like I used to. We're just making a small batch, and then I use some water. So the first thing that we need to do is to make sure we wash our hands, and I've already washed my hands. I've already diced my chicken, and the one important thing when you are working with a meat, you always want to make sure that you use a separate cutting board specifically for meat, because you don't want to cross-contaminate your ingredients with the meat and the vegetables. So you always make sure that you keep them separate, and it'll keep your meal safe and your food safe. So right now I've got probably, let's see, 4 celery stalks, and of course you can use more or less depending on if you like a lot of celery taste in your soups. We do, so I'm going to use 4 celery stalks, and I only had 1 carrot today in the refrigerator, so I'm using what I had. If I had more carrots, I would probably use about 2 or 3 and just dice them up and put them in there. But right now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get started on dicing up our celery stalks. And you just want to kind of make them into small bite-sized pieces so that they're not too big and chunky, because nobody wants to get a big piece of chunky celery in their soup. So we want to make sure that you cut them real thin for your soup. And I did wash these before I got ready to use them. You always want to make sure, no matter what you do, it's very important to always wash all of your ingredients prior to cooking. I washed my celery, I washed my carrots, and I peeled my carrots, and I made sure that I used a separate cutting board when I diced my chicken. So I've got my celery in some little bite-sized pieces that aren't too big, and I'm just going to put them in my stock pot. Now this is a small stock pot because it's only for 2 people. Now if you were going to have for a big family, you would do a little bit bigger pot, but we're just going to do a small one since it's just for me and my husband. And then I'll just get my carrots and I'll dice them. Well, I'll slice them into small pieces. You don't want to dice them too small because then they'll get mushy, and you don't want mushy carrots in your soup. So just little pieces of carrots. And like I said, if I had more carrots, I'd put some more carrots in there. My family likes it with carrots and without. So if I have them, I use them. If I don't, I don't. Okay. And then I'll put my carrots in our stock pot. And remember, I've already washed all of this before I started with the recipe. We'll move this out of the way. So we've got our celery and our carrots in the stock pot. And then what we'll do now is I'm going to put some chicken, a whole box of chicken broth into my stock pot. If you are using a bigger pot or you're making it for a larger family, I would do 2 boxes in a bigger pot. You always want to shake it up real good. And then I'm just going to pour this whole box of chicken broth in here. If you don't have chicken broth on hand, you can use chicken bouillon cubes. And you just add those cubes to water and you mix them up and they dissolve, and that also makes chicken broth. Or if you have homemade chicken broth, which at some point I would love to do homemade chicken broth, you can use that. So now you can see I've got my chicken broth and my celery and my carrots together, and so I'm going to put my chicken that I have already diced and have already cleaned into the pot. And since I touched the chicken with my hands, I'm going to quickly wash my hands. Okay, and so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add 1 can of cream of chicken soup. And this just adds a lot of flavor. And this is all of my family loves the chicken noodle, the homemade chicken noodle soup. So evidently I'm doing something right, because they always, oh, we're doing chicken noodle soup? They really enjoy it. So, and this is homemade, but not organic, homemade. My chicken noodle soup, my cream of chicken soup with all of my chicken broth, carrots, chicken, and celery. And I'm going to stir that up. And I like just a little bit of heat with my soup. So I get crushed red peppers and I just do a couple of shakes. Now, if you want to do the crushed red peppers, don't do too much, because a little bit of crushed red peppers goes a long way. If you put too much in, it is going to, over the time of saving it in the refrigerator, if you don't eat it all in one time, it is going to get hot, like spicy hot. So just a couple of shakes, and that is it. A couple of shakes. I mean, you can see it's hardly even covering the surface of the chicken broth, and I'm just going to stir that in. And then I've got some garlic salt, and I'm just going to do a couple of shakes of garlic salt just to give it a little bit of flavor. And then I'm going to add some salt and pepper. And then you can always, during the cooking process, add more salt and pepper according to your taste. If you like less, put less in it. If you like more, put more in it. And then we're going to stir these in. And I am going to cook this down a little bit, and then we're going to add some water. Well, actually, I think I'll add some water now, just to give me a little more volume. There you go. And then I'm going to put it on the stove and let it boil. So I'm just going to put it on medium-high. And we're going to let this come to a boil. And then when it comes to a good roiling boil, I'm going to let it cook for just a little bit and get the celery and the carrots soft and make sure that the chicken is cooked. And then we will add our noodles. Okay guys, so the soup is boiling. So we've got the broth, celery, carrots, and chicken, and a little bit of water in there, and it is boiling really well. I'm going to add some more water because we're going to need some more water because we're putting some noodles in. So if we didn't add more water, the noodles would soak up all of that volume and it wouldn't be soup. So that's one thing that you need to make sure that you do not put too many noodles in, because if you do, then it's going to soak up all your liquid and it's just going to be a bowl of noodles. I've done that before because everybody likes a lot of noodles, and I was adding more noodles and I didn't add fluid or liquid, and it made it all just noodles. So I'm going to add some more liquid. You can either add water or another box of chicken broth, but that's totally up to you. You've got the chicken in there that's going to make broth. You've got the broth in there. You've got the chicken noodles, cream of chicken noodle soup. So that's going to make it kind of get a good flavor in there. So we're going to let this start boiling up again. And when it does, we're going to add our egg noodles. And I have measured out 3 cups of egg noodles. And hopefully that's not going to be too, I might just do 2 because that's an awful small, I think I'm just going to do 2 cups. Because this is an awful small pot, and if I put 3 in there, it's going to soak up all my liquid, and then I'm not going to have any soup. So we're just going to put 2 cups of noodles in there. And after you start making this a while, you'll kind of know by looking at your by looking at your pot if you're going to be putting too many noodles in it or not. So we're just going to do 2 cups of noodles as soon as it starts to boil again. Okay guys, so the chicken soup is coming to a boil, so I'm going to add my noodles to it now, and I'm just going to kind of know there's 3 cups in here, so I'm going to leave just enough that looks like about a cup in the bottom of that. There. And then we're just going to let this boil and let the noodles get soft, and then we are going to have supper. And how fast was that? And it's nice and it's good, and your kids are going to love it. Okay guys, well, I am done with the chicken noodle soup, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll try some of the chicken noodle soup recipe for yourself and for your family. Put in the comments below if your family liked it or what other kind of recipe you'd like me to show you. I have a couple of other recipes that I'm going to add pretty soon that has been a staple in our family for several years that the kids even now request when they come over. But thanks for joining me today at Rockin' G Farm while I made homemade chicken noodle soup. I hope you enjoyed it, and make what you have beautiful.